Greetings, friends. Joseph Varghese here, rulesforsuccess.com. I'm excited today. I get to engage with another leader specifically in the world of coaching, and his name is Al Wynant. Al and I got to connect in recent weeks, and it just made so much sense given our passions, his why, to have him on our podcast. So this podcast will be on rulesforsuccess.com. You can access a mind map summary of all the points, including Al's background, his contact on that site, rulesforsuccess.com. I'll repeat that also at the end of this podcast episode. And I'm excited, beyond excited to connect with Al and particularly your mission. Well, Al, talk to us. Your business, the structure you built in Ingomo, correct? Ingomo.com.
Thanks, Joseph. Yes, it's Ingomo. Ingomo.com.
And how are you today? Of course. How are you this morning?
I am doing well. It's a beautiful day in Denver, so we can't complain.
Talk about Ingomos. So how did you realize the value and what is the mission of Ingomo? I know it's holistic coaching for organizations, but please, for our audience out there, what inspired you to build Ingomo, and what is Ingomo for our audience out there?
So I've been looking for a while, to fulfill my why, and that's always been, I want to make a positive difference to humankind by helping as many people as possible. That's a very lofty goal, and I'm sort of one of those guys. I see a lost puppy and I'm like, oh, I want to take it home, or I see a homeless person, I want to help it. So helping people is in my DNA. So I wanted to make that part of my why, and I've served on boards, I've volunteered, I've did fundraising, I donated money, but it never really helped me fulfill that need to help as many people as possible. And one day my co-founder and I were sitting in a coffee shop in Boulder, and we were thinking, and like, wait a minute, I really like coaching. There's something to that. What if we make that accessible, holistic, affordable, scalable, et cetera, et cetera. So we came up with the concept of Ingomu, and it's a really funny word, as you can see behind me. It's actually a word made up of the word coaching, the ing, and community. So we decided to build a technology, an app that would make coaching accessible in virtual live group communities versus one-on-one, which is, in essence, how coaching is done. And there's an immense value to that, but that's not necessarily accessible and affordable to most people. Especially if coaches charge $100 an hour, you get those like one-on-one interactions for many sessions. We wanted to make that accessible, affordable, and scalable, so lots of people can benefit from coaching and from different types of coaches. So that's in essence, the real short what Ingomu does. So it's making coaching accessible because it's such an incredible tool for people. Everybody can use a coach. Everybody lays awake of something at night that they can talk to a coach about and kind of think through and so on. So
and it's holistic, right? So it's not just business; it's also other areas of life. So someone's dealing with their emotional health, perhaps, or they're dealing with their physical health. It's holistically minded, correct?
Correct. So we look at coaching in four different areas. We look at life, soul, so mindfulness in a way, so soul, wellness, and work, because if you don't show up at work, if you're not there mentally, it's usually because there's things happening at home, either with your family, with your health, with your wealth, whatever those areas may be, with your soul. So we look at coaching, not just one coach, but a group of coaches who work in those different areas. So one day you may be working on an issue around type 2 diabetes or wellness or something, but the next conversation may be struggling with grief and loss. And the next day or the next week, you may be struggling with something else. So how do you provide the resources, the coaches, in a very holistic way? So we work with dozens and dozens of coaches, and so they all fit together. There's no duplication of coaching, but they all fit together holistically. So our users can work today on one issue, and then tomorrow or next week, they can work on a different issue, and have all those resources available. So it's because it's you need more than one coach usually when you work on a problem.
Absolutely.
So that's how we see that.
This is a concept of the wheel of life. We often hear about the idea that there's different spokes, different areas of life. Of course, 4 areas, 4 sections you talk about here. And one area it's poorly performing for whatever reason. You mentioned diabetes, or we're dealing with an issue with a relationship. It can easily affect all the other areas too as well. So hence the value of targeting maybe that initial area and then driving deeper into other areas too, perhaps as well, also knowing that everything correlates, right?
Yeah, and how it affects, I mean, when you deal with all those issues, it truly affects your life and your work. And then the impact on your employer, there's unscheduled absenteeism, and there's, retention issues. There's so many other issues that the stuff that you're dealing with in your own silo affects other people around you, your family, your loved ones, your colleagues, your company. So there's all of these different areas. I mean, it just all hangs together. And so if you can, in an easy way, so to speak, provide those resources to individuals and to companies,
yes,
it makes it so much better. And we can track it. We can track the efficacy of all of that sort of stuff. So, which is great.
It's so vital. And I'm so, when I got in the corporate arena 25, 30 years ago, things this wasn't available back then, but now corporations are investing into services like Ingomo. There's also betterup.com, number of organizations of a sort that really help the employees or staff or team members be more clear-minded, more intentional. Sometimes we have things in a way that simply getting into a group conversation like you're offering here would be able to release that essentially, or deal with that directly, or just be versus, I've got a rug behind me. It's easy to hide things under the rug and you get a lumpy rug at that point versus actually tackling it and having a system to do that. So it's curious, is this like a Slack community, or is this like a community where people can speak in audio? You mentioned there are multiple coaches. I think you have about a couple hundred coaches, or maybe 80 coaches. And one of my friends actually is a coach in your organization. She's been a member of Success Circles in the past. Yeah. And is it like, what is the platform, the app, what does it look like when the individuals or organizations access it?
So the first thing we start out is coaching is trust. So in order to be vulnerable and open, there has to be a trust factor. So the users are very private. So nobody knows who people are. It's because we work in communities. Unless somebody says, "Hey, I'm Al, I work for Ingomu," nobody's going to know who this Al is on this app. So that's one way. So we have coaches, anywhere from 50 to 80 coaches always on the platform. And so we call them coaching communities. And what that really means is, so the coaches run 2 scheduled live sessions a month. So they're streaming live. And there's one right now on the app here. They stream live. The participants join in, so they can see the coach. They can engage with the coach via chat, but we do not do voice. Just it's for protection of privacy and so on. So they can engage with the coach. They can see the coach. The coach cannot see them, but it's just the communications with chat as part of that. Then those sessions are recorded. So the sessions are scheduled. So it's like a TV program every second and fourth Friday at 3 p.m., whatever that may be. And then the sessions are recorded and are available on demand. So either you participate live, or if you watch it on demand, you can still engage with the coach, and the coach can still respond to you. Yes. But it also is a community then. So I don't want to compare it to Slack because it doesn't look or act like that, but it's each coaching community, each coach has their own little community under what they're coaching on, so you can engage there. But it's also very interesting is because then as a user, if you're pondering a question, you want to get sort of group feedback, you can put your question there, you can put a topic there, and then the coach can respond to it and make you think through stuff, because coaching is, you come to your own solution there. Or you can have the community say, well, this is our experience and this is what we do. Oh, this is a great question. I have the same question. And then the coach can also base some of the coaching on what that engagement looks like. So it's a very collaborative type of environment.
Yeah, so it's coaching, it's collaborative, and also there's a peer component as well. So people, let's say someone's been in the conversation for a while, worked with that coach before, or they're familiar with the topic, they can talk about their experience, all anonymous as well also, right? So it stays there.
Only see the first name of the coach. We call them learners basically in our platform. You can see the first name, and if they upload a little profile picture, it's about this big.
Okay.
But yeah, so it is very private, and I think we do about 100 or so live sessions a month right now. Okay. And we have over 600, close to 700 now recorded sessions that are available. So even if you come in now and you want to work on a topic, you can even jump into recorded sessions already before you jump into a live session. So it's quite, there's a lot of data there already.
So it's mobile friendly, as you showed your phone before. It's very mobile friendly, so anyone can.
It's only mobile.
Oh, okay, great.
Because
Fantastic.
from an accessibility perspective, we want people to be able to, listen to it or participate when they're on their way home on the train, driving over their Bluetooth in the car, preferably not engaging them with chat as they're driving, as you're sitting at your desk. So we want it to be as accessible as possible. And, on a computer, it's not always accessible.
Yes. Yes.
So.
I think one thing people deal with, particularly in COVID these times, is isolation. Particularly working from home remotely. And it just occurs to me that being able to, even our model Success Circles, it's all virtually based, but being able to tap into a conversation. Let's say you're on the train, you're at home, you're having breakfast, perhaps having a cup of coffee, being able to tap into it and get feedback, put yourself out there. I love that it's anonymous. It's very vital because trust is so critical in these conversations. And sometimes someone might not be as transparent about what they're dealing with, knowing that something's recorded and something might get out there to their boss and so forth. But we all deal with things, like we're all human beings, and especially past couple of years plus with COVID, people deal with stuff. There's stressors that are out there. Are there any case studies you can share, even like anonymous case studies of sorts, where you've seen some tremendous breakthroughs, either for an organization or an individual going through these conversations, going through this coaching process?
So we track the efficacy of the sessions, and since we haven't been around for years, so we're relatively new in the big scheme of things. So we track efficacy within the sessions. So we see on average about a 2.8% improvement between the beginning and the end of a session, and overall about a 34% improvement, and that's on self-reported well-being between the sessions. We track that's sort of platform specific, not session specific. So we see that kind of changes a little tiny bit every month as we go along. We are also tracking, because you have a little bit of euphoria after a session. Oh, this was amazing. This was great. So you're probably going to score that a little bit higher. We're also tracking more long-term. What are you working on right now? And how do you feel about this? Where do you rate yourself? And then we check in on longer terms. Are you still working on this? Are you improved? Are you flatlining? Are you lower on the scale? So we track that. On that, we don't have enough data yet to report what the long-term efficacy is, because we haven't been around long enough to do that. So so that's what we look like. But we see the feedback we're getting back from the learners has been very positive. So it's also a great thing for us as we worked on this, and you have to launch it before you can really see the efficacy of it. You can do studies, but you can only see it if people are, real people are participating. And so the numbers have been very good. We're very happy with those numbers.
Amazing. I'm a big believer in data tracking. That which is tracked consistently improves exponentially over time. I'm a big believer in that. And
AI drives a lot of that as well in the back end. So because also if people are working on a specific issue, and depending on the questions that are coming in, we can direct them to, maybe you should think about also working with this coach, because it doesn't matter if they work at one coach or 50 coaches. It's the same price for the whole thing. And so the system can guide them a little bit. They're like, oh, you may want to think about this as well. So so there's that AI-driven engine behind it also.
I think we talked about this last time too, as well. Also, the idea of personality profiling. When people join our my community, we invite them to share a bit about the personality. Like I'm an extrovert. I love people. That's one thing that's unique about myself. Other factors to how I work and how I show up in people in our community, how they work too. So DISC, Enneagram. There's also Colby. Do you make recommendations that people as AI make recommendations, or is it something you're looking to do as far as personality, kind of clarifying what their lane is? Like, I'm a big believer that we all stay in our own lane, focus on our strengths and so forth. Any thoughts about that?
So yes and yes, yes and no, yes and yes. I'm not sure. So the platform itself doesn't do that yet by design, because we want to make it accessible. And I think depending where you are in life, you may not be as apt as participating in that kind of, I wouldn't call it testing, but that kind of survey or so as you onboard with something. So we have to make the onboarding process. Yes, I want coaching. I want to be part of this. I'm not quite sure what coaching is, but I want to be part of it. So you want that entry point to be comfortable.
Yes.
So, and the more we ask up front, the more it turns people off from participating. So we ask very limited information in the beginning. It's like, what are you working on? Is it a work issue, a life issue? That's sort of the stuff we ask for, so we can guide them to the right resources. But that's the depth we're going. The AI behind it looks at, not as an individual person per se, but looks at what are trends in the platform, how are people engaging, where are they not engaging, are they improving, not improving, what the recommendations do we make as part of that. So it looks at all of that. Long term, we have plans for long term stuff, but it needs to be based on real data. Absolutely. And not like, ooh, wouldn't this be a great idea? And spend lots of money developing something. The AI itself, is a baby. AI needs an immense amount of data to be very successful. So even the system is even learning as it gets more data, as it gets fed more data, and so on. But for us, it's also there's a really, really fine line, because coaching is trust. So we don't share, we don't do any. The AI looks at information and spits out numbers and stuff like that, but we don't share that information. We report on efficacy of the system.
Yes,
we will never say, Joseph, these are his numbers, because we don't even track it. We can't even track it that way by design. So we're very careful on how we use that data. We don't share data with companies who employ us. We will share efficacy. We will share, this many of your employees have downloaded the app and are using it. But we will not say it's Al and Joseph who downloaded the app. So we want to make sure that people really feel that they can be in there. So I always go like, technology can be used for good as part of that. So we want to be really careful. I think I sort of strayed off here on my squirrel right now. So.
Well, it is very important, and it's for the individual, but to keep the privacy as far as all that data and so forth. And AI is much the future. So it's great that you're training it. All that data is being useful for the future. I think I also providing people a dashboard, which I know it's probably an integral part of this too. Dashboards so they can track their own progress. Hence, you mentioned before, kind of the surveys on the shorter term versus after the session, and also in the future as well. So also as things progress for that individual. It's brilliant. It's really, 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 really brilliant. The whole model of it. I'm curious what drove you. I know you mentioned your co-founder. You sat in the coffee shop. This whole passion around leadership, around growth. Where does it stem from for you, Al?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I came to some realization. I'd never thought about it earlier. My father passed away about 6 months ago, and so he had his own business, grew up in that environment, but never really thought about it. Both of my brothers have their own businesses, and I never thought of it, leadership and all of the entrepreneurship, and it never dawned on me how big of a role he had played in that. So I think sort of genetically it comes from that part of the family. But I've always, like I said earlier, I've always had this need to help people. And it's sort of like in my DNA. It's the weirdest thing, and I can't really explain it very well, but trying to find the right path to do that has been really challenging, I have to say. What does that really look like? And I also wanted to be something where if I wake up in the morning, I kind of like what I'm doing, and I need to feel that I'm making a difference. So I think that's where it sort of comes from, DNA genetically, I think. And I've always been surrounded by a lot of, amazing people who, were leaders in their fields, or, they were top in their jobs, and, that they've always sort of been around me for whatever reason. So that is inspirational as well. And as I was younger, I always think it's funny when I think about it right now. Right now, I feel like I know nothing, and I have to learn every day. When I was 25, I couldn't work for anybody else because I knew everything. So sort of having my own business has always sort of been solution to not being able to work for other people in my younger years.
Yes, and your siblings too as well. So you're all entrepreneurs for the most part, right?
Yeah. So it's been a really interesting journey, and I have to say, this is the first time in a really long time where I feel like I'm in the right place and what I'm doing and what we're accomplishing and with the people around me and the team we have. And obviously I'm surrounded by many coaches.
Yes.
So if I have a day where it's like, oof, I can easily go to one of our own coaching sessions or pick up the phone and call someone or do a Zoom with somebody. So it's a great experience.
It's powerful.
I'm not sure if I'm answering your question here.
No, it's perfect. I'm always curious about what inspired people with that journey. You mentioned your dad and your siblings. I did a program many years ago. It's a leadership program. It's called the Wisdom Course. And the main distinction of this training for this 10, 11-month period is this idea that we exist as a network. We exist as a network of conversations. So all that means is that any point of our childhood, growing up, adolescence, so forth, looking at the 5 to 6 people around ourselves each month, whether it's family, parents, relatives, friends, noticing that their values, the conversations that they have in their lives around well-being, happiness, also translates into us as well. Also, and Napoleon Hill talks about this too as well. Also, it's a clear concept. The idea of the mastermind, proximity is power, being around other people. But it just took this idea to a whole other level, where we actually create collages, track our whole life, and also track like why certain decisions are made at various points. I'm not so big into nostalgia, and we talked about that before this conversation. However, it is useful to recognize where certain beliefs, thoughts, ideas come from. What I'm inspired by, what you've created here, is that this particular app, what you're doing, it's a whole network of conversations in itself, because you have coaches and peers engaging and speaking and sharing. So as an individual now taps into this network of conversations, is this whole coaching session, as you say it, they're able to kind of put themselves out there, share a challenge, and evolve themselves for the course of 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour on a train ride, let's say. And to me, that whole idea is profound, especially if you're able to track it, and the organizations are able to see results, even though I know it's anonymous and so forth, but they're able to see that their employees are fulfilled, happier, and potentially more productive because they're more fulfilled and happier.
I think what you said earlier about, it's conversation, not really looking back in the big scheme of things, but you've obviously learned from that. But coaching is not looking back. That's therapy.
Yes.
Coaching is really looking forward.
Yes.
And that's what I find so attractive about this, is you are put into a position of thinking about the future and how you are going to get there. How are you going to work through these things? And it's about thought-provoking questions and actions. What's your role? And that's my favorite coaching question. That was the moment. It was the moment when I realized coaching was effective. When I went to my first coach, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." This person's not going to be able to tell me anything new. And in the first 2 minutes of the conversation, I shared an issue, and his first question was, "What's your role in that?" I was like, "Oh, this does work."
Yeah.
So it's a profound tool.
The questions are very meaningful as also. They engage the mind to really think and innovate, and it's exceptional. So a lot of this is about questions, right? Engaging questions and like, how do you? I'm curious also, how do you get a response? So in the app, coaches there, 30, 50 people in the conversation. How does it is it expected that people respond, or can they just listen and watch?
So they can, as the session starts, they can either have their chat on and see what people are responding to, or respond themselves. Or if you just want to participate, you can just slide a little thing and the chat goes away. So you only see the coach basically and engage with the coach. And the thing is about the chat too, is the coach will engage with it, because it's, the coach can recognize the questions and do that sort of stuff. But we don't post a chat afterwards. So only the video is posted. So whatever the chat conversation is only accessible to the coach. So he or she can still respond to stuff in between sessions, but that is not even posted on the app. So it's just a coaching session. But during a session, so if you want to, because there's some great coaching sessions where part of the session is maybe some meditation, some thinking through stuff, some visualization exercises and so on. I don't want to see chat for that. I just want to see the coach and I want to listen to the coach. And it was just, kind of peeking down. The session has ended now. As I kept seeing this particular coach is really into engaging with the audience and having the audience respond or the learners respond. So I kept seeing the questions and the answers, scroll up in the app as well. So that was going on. So it really, and it depends from coach to coach. It depends from learner to learner, because if you go to a group session in real life, you're sitting in the circle, so to speak, and you're exposed.
Yes. So
if you don't feel comfortable asking a question, you're going to be the person who doesn't participate in a session like that. Here, if you don't watch chat on the app, you feel you're the only person in the room. So the coach is talking to you. So you don't see it because you don't see the other participants. Unless another participant participates in chat, then you see the message come up. But if you turn chat off, you're having a one-on-one coaching session, as far as you're concerned. If you turn the chat on, you see the other engagement. So for some people have the benefit of seeing the chat because it makes sense. I was in a session last night, and so the coach was asking for different answers, and there's some amazing answers coming in and go like, oh, I never thought of it that way. So it can also make you think. The answers coming in from other people. Again, coaching community, with the coach being the leader of that community. So it's a really, really interesting way of engaging, and you walk away sometimes from the sessions where you've worked with the coach, but then you've learned sometimes as much from the other learners who are in the community, because they share their own answers or their own, this is my question. And you go. And last night there was 2 or 3 questions that I saw come by, and it's just like, this is really interesting. I really never thought of it that way.
I could see
so you grow.
I can see you're very passionate about it, especially you tapped into the app right now last night, just ensuring people are actually getting full value out of it. And so how do you choose your coaches? I'm curious about them. You have maybe anywhere from like 60 to 80 coaches. How do you choose these coaches?
We interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I think we had several thousand applications when we first started. So we put them through an interview process. So we are not like BetterUp is a great tool. That's one-on-one coaching. So they need a lot of coaches to do that. But in some of those platforms, if you are a coach, you can put yourself on that platform. I'm not saying BetterUp, but you can put yourself in general on a platform, pay for that, and then you book one-on-one meetings. We don't do it that way. We actually look for coaches who fit that holistic puzzle.
Yes.
We also look for coaches we want our coaching population, our coaches, to be a reflection of the world. And then no disrespect intended here, but many, many coaches are sort of the 55-year-old, white gray man. I'm 55, but I'm not gray. I'm lucky that way. But so there is that sort of look of a coach, basically. Yeah. And so, but that's not what the world looks like. So we also look for diverse coaches, and diverse, I mean very high level diverse, and experiences and origin and talents and color, etc. So we'll look at that as well. And then we have a very specific mission as a company. Are they bought into the mission? Are they part of how do we do business and so on? So
what is the mission? What is your mission?
Making a positive impact on humankind by helping as many people as possible.
Yes.
That's our mission. So it requires, from a coaching perspective, if you've never done group sessions, if you're coming here to do one-on-ones, it's not going to work out because we don't do one-on-ones.
Yes.
It's an app, it's a scalable tool. If you say, I only want 10 people in my session, that's not going to work because you may have 1 million at some point. We'll be growing as a company, way, and have probably some different process.
So basically, coach is able to see the bigger mission, creating impact, and being able to engage in multiple conversations, all in one multi-thread, recognizing
buy into our culture. As a company. So just to share how amazing our coaches are.
Please.
So we started this process 2 years ago with no technology, with an idea. And so we started looking at coaches and wanting to hire coaches at that time. Maybe not the smartest thing to do, but we did. And so we brought on coaches without having the technology ready. And what is so amazing, these coaches really believe in what we're doing and what we were going to create, that to this date, they're still here. They didn't get paid forever to be part of this because we weren't up and running.
And many of them have
And
reinvested back into the organizations, but also you mentioned that.
correct. So we had a couple of coaches come to us. We want to be part of this, of this company. We're like, how do we do that? So we decided to have a friends and family round for our coaches, and 75% of our coaches have invested in our company.
Incredible. They believe in the mission. The mission is like so strong, creating impact at that level.
Correct.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
I'm incredibly grateful to those people that they bought into our mission, that they're here as part of this. I'm nothing but admiration, appreciation, and I try to share that as much as I can.
Incredible.
Because it's not just about impacting the lives of the users, it's impacting the lives of the coaches, of everybody who works for the company. So we look at all of those different things. It's not just our people who use us, it's all of our stakeholders. So we look at it that way.
I'm sure it's basically fulfillment, success for all, right? Whatever their experience with success is. I'm curious, Al, how do you define success? It's often a question we ask for our people we interview, and we all have our own definition of what success means for us. How do you define what success is for yourself?
I think about that a lot, and I don't think I have the right answer or have the answer yet. And I kind of look back at my parents for that. And so we grew up well, and had nothing to complain about whatsoever. And so my parents always felt rich, but that didn't mean money or anything like that. So they had an amazing relationship. They had great business. They had great family. They were very happy together. They had 3 kids for them, 3 boys. So that environment for me was sort of like that success. It wasn't necessarily about the amount of money in the bank. It was more about, what is life? How meaningful is it? That sort of stuff. And so for me, that's part of it. Obviously, as it comes to a business, you have business goals to meet. That, success for a business means this many subscribers, this much money in the bank, et cetera, et cetera. That's an important thing as well, especially if you have, stakeholders and so on. But I think for me at this stage, this may change next week, but at this stage, what success would mean for me in this business would be to be able to quantify the positive impact that we're making, not just on the individual, but if you help an individual, how does that positively impact the family, the community, and a company? If it's a part of a company, so how do you quantify that? So being able to figure out how to quantify that would be amazing to me, to crack that nut, so to speak. And we have some ideas, but just kind of, what's that? I don't like to use the word trickle down, but how does that coaching here, how does that positively impact everything under it? What does that mean for a community? That's amazing to me if we can do that. And then, eventually I'd like to retire at some point. So a successful company ties to that as well. Yes. So those sort of things. So success for me, success is an evolving thing.
It's an evolving conversation.
It's an evolving conversation. And it's different depending on who the stakeholders maybe I'm talking with. So there's sort of the personal, happy home, happy, that sort of stuff.
Success individually, success also for the business and for the different stakeholders people involved too as well. So I completely get that, 1,000%.
I don't have the list of like, here's my success, the things I need to meet to be successful. I don't have that list.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit in my head,
but I appreciate how you have this deep feeling of fulfillment inside, knowing you're making an impact. You're continually measuring this process, looking at how it's going to impact communities, cultures, organizations. You have it in your mindset, which is very important. I come from an engineering background, so it's very important. And I also, exact process background. I also appreciate how it's in your heart. You come from a background where you really appreciate, what your family. It's how they supported you. So you have this kind of balance, a safe place that you come from that you're able to now carry forward. You have a lot of love in your heart to be able to do what you're doing. enormous amount of love. I can tell that.
I have good examples at home.
I'm curious also, and we also ask a lot of our interviewees this question too, is what are some rituals that you embrace on a daily basis, maybe in the morning or evening, to keep you in check, to keep you aligned with your vision, your mission, to keep you engaged in your day, to keep you efficient, streamlined, fulfilled? What are some things you do, perhaps even outside of the app? I know the app is, of course, one integral part of it. You've designed it for that reason. Outside of that, anything else you do each day?
I have rituals that I do and things that are important. So as we were talking earlier, my coffee ritual in the morning is insanely important to start my day. But that's the personal thing. For me, there's, I think, 2 or 3 things that I need to do daily to sort of stay sane, for lack of better words. And the one thing is start the day with a positive mindset. Going, what is my day going to look like? Sort of visualize a good day. And it sounds a little woo-woo, but it's important to step. What is my intention for the day? I don't write this down anywhere. This is just the mindset to wake up with. Usually as I wake up in the morning, I think about this. So you don't start Monday. You start more with a positive mindset. The other thing I do is I try to be organized. I try to have processes in place for a lot of things. How do I manage my day? How much time do I spend in meetings? How much time do I spend on different parts? So I try to be organized for that. And then the thing that I think has the most impact on me, and that I focus on more and more lately, I haven't done for a long time, but in the last 6 months, I started focusing on that a little bit more, is at the end of the day, kind of look back on the day. And not like journaling, like dear journal, but more like what are the 3 things that I experienced today that were positive, I learned something from, I can grow from, and kind of think through those and write those down and journal about that. And I don't want to call it a gratitude journal because that's a big thing that people do right now, but it's part of that process because it kind of makes you think back on, what worked today, what didn't work today, how can I do better, and set your intentions for the next day. That's a ritual I've been employing more and more. And then another one that I insist on as much as I can. I live in a very urban environment, but I like the outdoors. Is 3 times a day. If I'm not scheduled to go outside for some reason, I need to go outside at least 3 times a day and walk for a half hour.
Wow.
Just be outdoors.
Wow.
So in the morning before I get to my desk, I go walk the block in the neighborhood. I do it after lunchtime and I do it after dinner time. So just getting that quick little outdoor burst of energy, is fresh. I'm not sure it's fresh here most of the time, but get that experience. That's really important too.
I love it.
And if I miss it, I kind of feel it. It's weird.
Some very, very powerful rituals, practices you have in your life, my friend. It's extraordinary. I got that. The visioning, you mentioned the process for your day. You also mentioned being outdoors, some reflection time toward the end of the day as well, particularly the highs, the wins, the lessons. I get that. That's powerful. It's very important that we manage our focus, manage our well-being, manage our energy throughout the day. And those are some really great strategies. I really appreciate you sharing that. I know you have an event coming up also. It's December 8th, and I'll share my screen momentarily so our audience can see what that looks like. But it's at bemoredays.com. Is that correct?
Correct. It's one of those other things that we do as, making a positive impact. So we do these about twice a year, and it's a free virtual conference where we bring our coaches, and we have 4 interactive sessions around life, soul, wellness, and work, where coaches come in, answer questions. It's an interactive. So it's calling it a conference is maybe a little bit wrong here, but it's what people understand. So we're working around what are your goals in the new year? How can you meaningfully, I can't say the word right now, work around those rather than, writing them down, putting a sticky note on the refrigerator and forgetting about them. In 2 weeks, it's really how can you set yourself up for success in the new year? And we'll have 4 coaching sessions with panels of 3 to 4 coaches. So you can have the different viewpoints. So we can have really great conversations around that. And then we'll also have a job coach fair because we're always looking for coaches. And then we have also a networking event with coaches, and the learners can just jump in and talk with coaches. themselves. So it's a great event. It's free. It's virtual. So if you're interested, sign up. We won't spam you with anything. We will only send you the instructions on the event. So.
Fantastic. So it's right now I'm showing up my screen. For all of our listeners out there, go to Ingomos.com, learn more about Al's company, the app, what he's doing. It's quite brilliant. The concept, it's particularly where the future is going in this very remote world that we live in, or wherever people are, be able to access this level of coaching in this group style, even remotely. And the summary of this whole session here, this mind map you'll see here, including some of the other distinctions, lessons that Al provided us, including his daily rituals. We'll integrate this here also on our site, rulesforsuccess.com. Al, this has been an absolute pleasure being able to engage this way. Thank you for providing much value in the session. And anything else that I skipped on today that you feel our audience should know?
First, I appreciate you inviting me to be here today. It's been lovely. So rarely get to do this. So thank you for letting me share. No, if anybody ever wants to connect or have any questions or wants to learn about coaching, I'm here to help. Feel free to reach out. You can link with me on LinkedIn, which is on the mind map there, I believe. So feel free to reach out. I'm here to support. So thanks for giving me that opportunity, Joseph.
Incredible. Thank you for being here today. Once again, rulesforsuccess.com. Access the replay as well as the mind map summary and Al's contact as well. Have a fantastic day.